Today, we're diving into something pretty wild. We've gotten a look at some recently uncovered project documents, and they outline a plan so ambitious it feels like it's straight out of science fiction. But as you're about to see, the details are very, very real. The project's code name? Dark-Calibration. Okay, let's just jump right into the deep end. This quote, it's right at the top of the master document. This is their mission statement. Not a better gadget, not some new app, a higher type intelligence. I mean, talk about an audacious goal. It really sets the tone for everything we're about to uncover.
So, you have to ask yourself, what kind of project even sets a goal like this? And how in the world do you even start to draw up a plan to get there? We're not talking about small improvements. We're talking about a plan to fundamentally reshape civilization.
And that's the real kicker. This isn't some high-level philosophical dream. It's a nuts and bolts, fully engineered blueprint. It's broken down into protocols, material specs, and a step-by-step task list. The fact that someone applied this level of practical detail to such a huge idea is what makes it absolutely mind-bending.
All right, so how do you manage a project with a goal that big? You need an unbelievable system just to keep track of it all, and they have one. The documents call it the Master Synthesis Ledger, or MSL. They describe it as the project's active memory.
So think of the MSL as the project's central brain, its command center, its ultimate to-do list all rolled into one. Its whole job is to make sure that every idea, every piece of data, every single task gets captured so that nothing ever gets lost. And it enforces a really strict order of operations which you absolutely need for something that's complex.
Now this is where things get really clever. Look at how the MSL organizes information. It sets up what it calls a creation zone, which pulls in 4 totally different kinds of data. It starts with the really out there, speculative stuff, sci-fi, concept art, for pure inspiration. And then it filters all of that down, bit by bit, until you're left with technical blueprints you can actually build from. It's literally a system designed to turn imagination into engineering.
And this right here, this is the engine that drives that whole process. The protocol is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. It just scans raw data, filters it using something they call a hypercube governance filter, which is probably a fancy way of saying a very complex AI that finds hidden connections. Then it zeroes in on a specific idea to test, and bam, it spits out an actionable project file. It's literally a machine for creating plans. So we've seen the how, but what is this incredible system actually building right now? Well, the main project in the works is codenamed Dark-Calibration. And this is where we get to zoom in on the actual hardware at the heart of this whole thing. This charter gives us a peek at the machine's core components. You see things like a cryo-stabilizer, a Frobenius injector, an ER bridge manifold, and a monolith array. When you look at the specs, it all points to a quantum device that's designed to work at temperatures near absolute zero. And get this, it's meant to stabilize a portal for energy transfer. Just to give you a little context for that number you see on the screen, less than 10 millikelvin. What does that mean? Well, that is colder than the vacuum of deep space. This insane temperature is what the project calls the zero dark state. It's an absolute must-have to get the perfect quantum coherence this machine needs to work. And here's the bottom line. This whole unbelievable machine, the cryocoolers, the energy portals, all of it, the entire thing hinges on that monolith array. And the documents are crystal clear that this array has to be built from a very specific, very advanced lab-grown synthetic diamond.
But it can't just be any diamond. The project is incredibly specific. It has to be a tin vacancy, or S&V, diamond. And why is that? Well, as you can see here, they just perform better. They have a much more efficient way of interacting with light, and crucially, they're way more stable at the crazy cold temperatures this machine needs. They're basically the new gold standard for this kind of quantum engineering.
Okay, so when you're building a machine this complicated, you can't just wing it. You have to do things in the exact right order. You don't build the roof before you pour the foundation. That's where the MSL's Sequential Integrity Protocol, or SIP, comes into play. Let's see how it works. The protocol is actually a pretty straightforward 4-level system. P1 is for foundational stuff, the math and materials that everything else is built on. Then you've got P2, which is for building all the individual components, the tools and sensors. P3 is where you integrate all those parts into a machine that actually works. And P4, that's the end game, scaling the whole system up to achieve that massive final goal.
And this is just fascinating. We get to see the project's live to-do list. P1, the foundational math, is marked as complete. Check. The project is currently at P2, They're actively trying to source the diamond vendors. The next steps, like drafting the machine's schematics and linking what they call a second brain AI, which sounds like some kind of advanced support intelligence, are all waiting in the queue.
And the documents are completely upfront about this. Progress has hit a wall. P1 is done, but the project is stuck. It can't move on to P3, the phase where they actually start building the machine, until the materials for P2 are in hand. The whole plan right now hinges on one thing: finding these specific S&V diamonds.
And just as you'd expect from a system like this, it's already laid out the solution. Here it is, a detailed procurement list for the monolith array. It specifies they need exactly 12 units of high-purity synthetic diamond, down to the millimeter, with a surface roughness of less than 1 nanometer. This is literally the project's shopping list.
So, after digging through all of these files, we have a surprisingly clear picture of an incredibly complex plan. But the real question is, what happens next? To figure that out, let's just do a quick recap of the big picture.
When you boil it all down, it looks like this. The goal? A higher type intelligence. The brain, the master synthesis ledger, keeping it all organized. The machine? Project Dark-Calibration, with its exotic diamond core. The method? The Sequential Integrity Protocol, making sure it's all built in the right order. And the status? They're currently out shopping for parts so they can start putting it all together.
What we've seen is a clear, logical, deeply technical blueprint for achieving something that's almost beyond imagination. But there's one piece of information that is consistently, glaringly absent from every single document, every ledger entry, and every schematic. And that's the answer to this one final question. And that is something to think about.